All right, welcome to Objective 10, defeat fingerprint sensor. So this one is asking us to, on the elevator, essentially get into Santa's office, his floor, without being Santa. And in order to normally do that, there's a little fingerprint sensor that pops up when you try to go to that floor. And obviously, if the fingerprint sensor is working as expected, would only be programmed to accept, Santa's fingerprint and certainly not ours as a player. However, the functionality is written in client-side or client-delivered, JavaScript code, which we can easily circumvent and allow us to access that floor. And that's how we solve that challenge. This is actually a very quick and pretty straightforward challenge. It just involves taking a look at the way that the page is laid out and the associated JavaScript, and none of it's obfuscated or minified or anything like that, which a lot of websites these days, it's pretty standard to obfuscate, minify, uglify. They've got all these verbs for it, but essentially make it very difficult to, even though you are being delivered the JavaScript because it needs to run locally on your browser, it's very hard for you to just reverse engineer it because they don't deliver it the way they write it. They manipulate it and try to make it very hard to pick apart and reverse engineer. Here we just get it, as you or I would write it, so it's very easy to read and understand. All right, so my camera down here, and let's go into the right challenge. All right. So bypass the Santa fingerprint sensor and enter Santa's office without the fingerprint. So we're in the elevator now. If we go ahead and launch this, make sure you've got your elevator set up so it's getting these little electrons, whatever they are, into all of the correct sockets with the lights. Once you do that, Santa's office floor 3 will glow gold like all the others. If you click that, it unveils the fingerprint scanner. If we click on it and I had sound down, it would give us a negative beeping noise or whatever. So it's not letting us obviously scan our fingerprint. So we need to bypass this. So let's launch. I'm typing Control-Shift-I to launch the developer tools. There's other ways to do it too, but that's the text shortcut. And what I will say is, when I was testing this, I was initially using Firefox as my browser, and I noticed that I could not, and perhaps I was just missing toggling a setting or something, but by default I could not edit and edit in place any JavaScript, and that is required at least for the way I solve this. So Chrome and Edge do appear to allow you to edit JavaScript in place and have that reflect immediately in the page. So oh, this already opened to where I had left it, which I didn't intend. But anyway, if we go here to sources, we're seeing all the content that's been delivered to us in our web request. Here we have a KringleCon I guess subdirectory, and then here we've got elevator.kringlecastle.com. So that caught my eye. So then I started drilling down on what sort of content was developed for the delivered for the elevator, and we've got some JavaScript. This looks like vendor-based code, but here we've got app conduit. So this looks like custom code. So I started looking through app.js, and this is essentially what is making the elevator work. So knowing that we have to bypass the fingerprint, I started doing some searches for fingerprint and Santa. And here we find this one, handle button 4. And if we look elsewhere in the code, we can see that BTN or button 4 deals with floor 3, which is Santa's office. So very simple. Basically what it's doing here is it's checking that that button has power to it, as it does because it's gold now, and that there is a token called BSanta. So this has token function is actually used a lot in this code. And all it's doing is passing in a value name and ensuring that it exists in this tokens array. So get params.tokens, and then it's splitting them. So get params. Parse URL variables, okay. So let's do a search for that. Okay, so yeah, what this is doing is parsing, I believe the URL variables, not for this one, this is CringoCon, but for the elevator, calls to elevator. So if we refresh this by F5, let's see here. Let's open this up. And let's just show JavaScript. Yeah, so you can see here, might be a little hard to see on the video, but this is the request we're making to elevator.kringlecastle.com. You can see all these URL parameters in there. We've got a username, the area that we're in, the tokens that we have, and these tokens, I guess as when we're Santa, it's set so that be Santa is a token, but some of the other tokens are the items that we actually have in the elevator panel. So this is diving a little bit too deep into this now, but basically let's go back to app.js. And let's just search for Santa. Okay, so all we have to do is comment this out. And so now this code is not going to check to see that we have that token. So we just don't need it now. And since this code is delivered to us and running client side, because for most of JavaScript, that's how it works, is that code is running on the client, which is why things like cross-site scripting, request forgery, things like that are possible, because that's client side executing code. So we're able to manipulate that, change it, and now we can bypass that check, and we should be able to get into the office now by clicking this. Looks like I have to save this here. It's a bit different than, let me just try Control S. Does that work? Okay, so I hit Control S, it looks like it's saved now. So now let's try clicking the fingerprint scanner. And that lets us through. And it looks like we have unlocked the Defeat Fingerprint Sensor challenge. All right, thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and catch you in the next video.